there. So now we are going to bring up our next speaker, storyteller, slammer, if you will, Mary Lemmer. Mary, come on up.
All right, well, because all good stories have titles, the title of my story is Grain-Free Gelato, Going Against the Grain and Delivering Sweetness to Michigan. And my story ties in a few things: Mussolini, the Jersey Shore, high school prom, NASCAR, and retail. And if you can't figure out how those are all related, well, you will. So Mussolini, my great-grandparents lived in Italy during Mussolini's rule, and they decided one day, just one day, that they were going to come to America and live the American dream. So they did. They got on a boat and they came over to America and started living the American dream. They were broke, they had no place to live, they didn't know where to find food, and they were in Pennsylvania. American dream. So my great-grandfather started building houses and apartment buildings in Philadelphia to build his life. Early entrepreneur in my family, and continues to inspire me to this day. And I was fortunate to grow up visiting him and his family, my family, in Philadelphia every summer. We'd drive up there, and we'd go visit Philadelphia, and then we'd go to the Jersey Shore. Which my memories of the Jersey Shore are very different than the television show, and Snooki and I are not BFFs. But what I do remember from the Jersey Shore was the Italian water ice, this water-based, thirst-quenching, sweet, tasty treat that I could find on every corner of the block. And I'd come back to Michigan with my family, and I'd ask my dad, "Dad, why can't we get Italian ice in Michigan?" And instead of saying, "Well, it's cold 10 months out of the year," he said, "Well, if you want it here, you should bring it here." And like any teenager, I decided, well, that's a good idea. And I decided to go against the grain and miss out on my high school junior prom to go out and research what it would take to start an Italian water ice business. So I left, went out to Philadelphia with my dad and my brother, lived off soft pretzels and Italian water ice for 3 days, and learned all I could about the business. And when I came back, I had a catering business. And that's what I had. I had no customers and decided, well, where am I going to do this catering business? Who's going to want Italian ice? So we started going to birthday parties, graduation parties. We went to the Litchfield Sweet Corn Festival and the Potterville Gizzard Fest. We ended up going to the Ann Arbor Art Fair, which ended up being our biggest event. People in Ann Arbor in 90-degree weather love cold, refreshing things. And then we also did NASCAR, which was the biggest learning opportunity that we made early on. And people kept asking us, well, where can we get this all the time? Where's your store? And we said, well, we don't have a store. And we decided, because retail is such a lucrative business, to open a retail store in Lansing, Michigan, where everyone is highly cultured and loves frozen dessert. And we decided to keep it seasonal and keep it open during the warm months in Michigan, which, 2 months out of the year. This is pre-global warming. And it went really well. We, hired a few people, mostly friends and people that my dad coached in sports. Went well, decided to do this year-round and sell Italian ice in February in Michigan because that seemed like a smart idea. And that's when we introduced gelato, because gelato was a really important part of the Italian culture for my family, and it made a lot of sense and really fit with this Italian experience that we were trying to create and bring to Michigan. And we did that for a full year, and surprisingly in February, we were able to keep the doors open. People did want gelato. They loved the taste of it. The flavor was so much better than what they'd experienced. And this was in Lansing, where people have a hard time paying, $3 for anything that's, worth $3. So they enjoyed our gelato, and my family had been really involved in the business, and we thought, well, do we want to take this to the next step? And I came to the University of Michigan for college, and I fell in love with Ann Arbor and thought Ann Arbor is the perfect place for gelato. And I worked at Zingerman's for 3 years and loved their gelato, learned a lot more about it, and thought, well, Ann Arbor really needs an Italian gelateria. So we opened one right downtown, and it was a crazy summer. Our goal was to be open by the first day of art fair, and this is the most recent art fair. We ended up opening art fair as our goal with like no seating, and it was very bare bones. We got a couple of Yelp reviews that were like, "There's no seating in there, it's awful." And I'm like, "No, it's coming, please come back." And they did. We now have 27 employees. The freezer only melts and breaks down every other month now, so we've started to get that down. And it's a blast, and I've learned a lot along the way, and the moral of this story is that you should eat gelato because anything is possible with gelato. And now you can eat gelato downtown Ann Arbor on East William Street. Thank you. Grazie.
Mary Lemmer, whose story I loved. Okay, so I'm actually gonna go back to our back judges who seem to have their shit together a little better, to be honest. Okay. 10 from Entrevu. Straight up 10 from Entrevu for Mary. All right. And in the back to Judgment Day. Is that, you want to take that back now? All right. Judgment Day, do you have a score? 7.5 from Judgment Day, and the back benches have given a flat 9. You can, I mean, yes. You're allowed to mix it up to prove me wrong. You know, you can. All right, just leave it. I'm good. I'm lazy too. Don't worry about it. I phoned it in an hour ago.